So, hi Patrick, what was your first computer?
Well, my first computer was a 486, sometimes in 95, I suppose.
486.
Yes.
So you are like 15 years old or what?
Yeah,
Almost.
good guess.
A good guess, perfect. And what you did with the 486?
Well, lots of things, because already before I had access to Spark workstation and a local university.
Okay,
So,
which
yeah, it
one?
was like well, I don't know which one.
How it looked like? Was it like a tower or like a blade?
No, it was like kind of thin.
Blade. Okay. And
Yeah, but it was only over TTI, so it was like it looked really like an old text terminal.
okay, because
So
because I had also access to Spark workstations during trainings, and the hardware looked really nice. So this is why I'm asking, because it looked really well done back then.
Yeah, but it was kind of like a computing center in the university, So this was behind fireproof doors, and so you can only look at it.
Okay.
All you got was a green screen.
Okay. Which university was it?
A local university here in Kosice, Technical University of Kosice.
Kosice. This is in Czech Republic?
Slovakia.
Slovakia, okay. Okay, really interesting. So you spent time with computers because before having one, right? What I understood.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So what was the first contact with the computer? So I have to frame the question differently.
I'm not sure. So the thing I remember, because I've read like lots of books before, like the popular books on all of the 8-bit computing, but only on the basic part. So anytime I got near an 8-bit computer, I will try to make a program, and it wouldn't work because you cannot just make it on the spot when you have no idea how it works. And then the interesting one was when I got this access. So finally I found out like there is a network out there. Yeah, but it was only Gopher at the time. So World Wide Web wasn't really taken off yet. And especially on the text terminals, it wouldn't help anyway.
Yeah, but it's still interesting. So you started to read books before having one computer. So why you did it? So what is your expectation? So I mean,
I don't know. I did like it. So I think the first book had like this nice graphics, like this kind of polygons or end-to-end connection. I was really intrigued by how do I do that. So I was kind of trying to create some graphics out of it.
Okay. So were you somehow back then inspired by popular culture, movies, or you just
something like that. Yeah, so computers were like popular, interesting thing, and I was trying to figure out how that works.
Okay, nice. So you so I got you. So you and then you started to study, right? And had access to Spark, and then you bought a 486.
Yes, kind of like that. So I've got a 486. This was kind of like a friendly access I got, but the 486 was the high school. Yeah.
Oh, that is high school. Okay, so and you already had at high school access to Spark Station.
Yeah, but I was really lucky.
This is crazy. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, so now I'm curious. So you got to high school 486. So and you started programming or gaming?
Mostly programming, because I had that access. So I already knew like this small Unix utilities to patch together, and so then I think I found in the high school we had the Camel book, the Perl reference manual. So that kind of gave lots of ideas, and it was really written in a way that it actually taught programming as well. So
still crazy. It's high school learning Camel on 486. So it's a unique story. So and what you actually would like to achieve back then? Also, what was your idea? Writing, graphic software or game or?
So I had like few practical things like I had to do. Mother owned a small shop, so it was important to quickly do the inventory. So I kind of do like the simple kind of spreadsheet software just for entering like the total, so I can type it quickly, so it doesn't take like my whole day, so I can go through the inventory in a few hours.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things. But on the other hand, I was intrigued by music, so I always try to like do a bit of generated music. That didn't really work out because that thing is complex. But I was trying to do such things.
So back then, I assume
generative art. If I use large term for that, that will be generative art. But in the end, it was like random beats.
Yeah. So like you were probably inspired by Jean-Michel Jarre, right?
Yes,
Pink Floyd.
Yeah, and Kraftwerk.
Kraftwerk. Okay, Autobahn.
Yeah, love that one.
Yeah, and Kraftwerk is interesting, because what I understand is they delivered several. They had a tour, a concert, and on some of them they were robots, and only in a few spots there were the actual players. So which is for that time it was interesting, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so you had a 486, and you started to programming in Camel to do some beeps called generative art. Now we could, of course, sell it as machine learning or AI, at least. And back then was just programming, right? So okay. So what is the next step? So what was the next language after Camel? The next computer?
The next step would be also received from the same person who gave me access at the university. I received a Java demo CD. So that was JDK 1.1.
Who is the secret person?
That's my cousin.
Okay.
He was like Sun distributor at that time. So.
Okay. So this is why the Java demo. This was a JDK 1.0?
101, I would say, or something like that. So
okay. Maybe I have the same CD. It was like with the Java logo on it, and it was paper, so you can open that. And okay, so interesting. So and what you did then? Try the CD or?
Yeah, I did try the CD. I understood that there is something like Java language. At that point, it was not that important because all I did actually with with kind of network level stuff was more kind of web pages because everybody wanted a web page back then.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't use Java at the time, but also it took like 50 seconds to start up and for an applet, right? And Landscape Navigator. Okay,
what do you use back then for websites? PHP.
I think that was various text editors. I don't remember.
Hot Metal.
Likely text. Yeah. No, I think it was the TextPad exists already, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, but you said you did something different for writing websites. I mean, static websites, right? So there was no dynamic in your. So that's what I understand. Okay, because why I'm asking is because I was asking one point of time to do something with CGI or PHP. I had no idea about that, so I knew Java. So I was more or less forced to do Java on the server side, and I had to convince my clients to pick Java instead of CGI. And this was easy because CGI had some problems with security and cold startup, which reminds me a little bit on Lambdas, and Java was ready to use and had better cold start performance. So this was my story. So this is why I ask. Okay, so you started with Java go ahead.
Yeah, then later in the university, I discovered Apache Cocoon.
Yeah, which is XML publishing pipeline.
XML publishing pipeline, and that I think for me that was a revolution. Yeah, kind of like I had my type structure decoupled from my data sources. And everything like neatly bound together with XSLT.
And in Germany there was still is the JAX conference, and if I delivered some talks, early talks, it was like around 2000. The Cocoon was huge in Germany, so the guys from Cocoon were always before me, and the room was full, and and I tried that, but for me it was a little bit too complicated somehow. So and what I did in one point of time, I remember, I just used plain XML and Xalan and CSS with Java and generated from XML and XSL HTML right away. And this was for me simpler, or I don't know, simpler, more predictable than the entire Cocoon pipeline back then. And
probably.
And yeah, interesting.
It's similar. Yeah, that's interesting thing with the tools. When you don't know anything else, and suddenly you got this and figure out how to do it. Suddenly it's powerful. But actually, there might be something much simpler to do and achieve the same thing. But the development workflow with Cocoon was really good because everything would just reload.
Yeah,
you will save a file, you change your structure, just save it immediately. You can test it out in the browser.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for me it was always more like I try to understand what is Cocoon. Okay, it does XSLT transformations. Like okay, but Java does this as well. So how it look like in Java? So okay. Easy. So then I don't like Cocoon. This was always my thinking process. Yeah. Is it something available in Java? If it is it hard? No, then I will use Java. So this was like this what I do for 20 years, and it still works interestingly. And later you did some Cocoon. So what happened before? What was your first applet about? Was it like built-in applet or Hello World, or what do you remember that?
I don't think I actually written an applet.
Okay.
In Java, I think my first real thing I did in Java was a computer graphics assignment, make a rotating cube.
Rotating cube, not bad.
Yeah. But yeah, that was exactly the kind of thing Java was not good for at that time. But because of to really make the metrics computation fast, it was just lots of arrays. And it took time to figure out which thing to multiply with which other thing.
But this was for a school assignment, as I understand, right?
Yeah.
And you like Java? Or you said, okay, Camel is better? Because from Camel to Java is quite a journey, right?
Yeah, well, no, it was Perl. So I was referring to Camel book. So
the Camel book. And I thought the Camel programming language. So I was really impressed. No, I'm a little bit less impressed, So now with Perl. But I also have the book from O'Reilly, right? This is the O'Reilly book with the Camel on it. And I was really delighted. Someone at high school learns Camel programming language for fun, which runs on 486. I said, okay, you are a genius, So this is like, but Perl is like, okay.
It's better straight the
So now you just a really smart guy, no more a prodigy or something like this, right? Okay, so from Perl to Java, so I assume you like Java, right? So because there's
it was nice. Yeah, the error messages were easier to grasp.
Yeah, what Java was the problem at the beginning, what I remember is it was for everyone, was delighted about run once and write once and run everywhere. And for me, it was like cheating because I had always installed the JVM everywhere. So, okay, but if I have to install the JVM everywhere, of course it will run everywhere. This is like, saying Word runs everywhere, my document, and then I have to install the Word software first, and then I can look at the document. So but then I got it. So on my computers, there was Java already. So, but at the beginning, because I started with C++ actually, so and for me it was not understandable what's the deal with Java, right? So at the beginning. Okay, so you did Java at the high school?
At the university.
At the university later. So for you it was just natural to start studying computer science, right?
Yeah.
And it was still in your country, city. Where was it in?
Yes, yeah. I actually didn't move away from Kosice this entire time.
Kosice. Okay. Where is it? In the near of Bratislava? How far away is it?
That's the eastern. That's the eastern Slovakia. So it's around about 450 kilometers from Bratislava.
Wow. Okay. So
it's quite on the opposite ends of Slovakia.
Okay. Okay, because I was a couple of times Bratislava, so therefore, okay. So you started to study. And you knew Java. The first computer assignment was, a rotating cube with matrix calculations. Yeah. What happened at university? So you enjoyed Java, you did something, on the side in your leisure, some projects, interesting project, Java projects?
Kind of, yeah. I was continuing building those websites in Cocoon during the university.
Uh-huh.
So then eventually, then I landed in the advertising agency.
Okay.
So kind of natural follow-up to that. But after a while, I started to miss or try that I should do real programming.
Mm-hmm.
So I joined an outsourcing or outsourced daughter of a German utility company over here
Okay.
in Kosice. And then I switched to SAP for a few years.
SAP and Java or SAP and ABAP?
SAP and ABAP, that was quite a shock.
Yeah, it is a shock. But I met the one of the guys who created ABAP per accident. I was because I assume it was around 2003. My assignment was to teach the ABAP people Java. And there were some people who were in the origin garage where they create, the SAP engine for ABAP execution. So this was very interesting because we had a chat, and this is somehow the virtual machine and how they call it is very similar to Java actually. So
Yes.
yeah, and I had a really hard time, to explain the ABAP people Java because they really liked the development experience in ABAP. So everything was integrated in kind of Workbench. I don't know how to call it back then, but it was like an integrated IDE. And I think I did back then either 2003, I assume it was Eclipse, because I started with JBuilder in Visual Studio, and then I migrated completely to Eclipse. And then NetBeans was usable, so I switched completely to NetBeans. And for them it was really hard to understand why it is so complicated. So we have a standalone IDE, and we have to save the sources and check them in. So for them it was terrible experience with Java, and for me it was interesting experience in ABAP. So I just wanted to learn more. When we met after the training, and we had lots of chats how the SAP is working internally. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from that point of view, it was really interesting. It's good development experience. It could be seen that there is some kind of virtual machine running beneath that. Yeah, the only problem was the language was inconsistent. So, if after 4 years you will need to look up how to add an element into an array, probably it's not the most language with easy syntax.
And this is someone who knows Perl, right? So okay. So and then you quit the ABAP journey, right? And back to Java, or what?
Well, yeah. Then I wanted to go back to Java, but I still stayed in the SAP ecosystem. I was working with Netweaver Java for a few more years. Which was
Netweaver was the application server, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, everything was Netweaver at one time.
No, but Netweaver Application Server. This is what I know because I tested that.
Netweaver Java. Yeah. I think SAP had like this naming period, but everything was named Netweaver, so it was hard to tell which is which. But yeah, there was a Java application server. It actually was a Java EE application server, but they had like so many custom APIs that at least at those projects I was helping maintaining, couldn't even see that it is a Java EE application.
Yeah.
Because they had their custom UI. It's WebDim Pro.
WebDim Pro, exactly.
Was like, in theory, it was perfect, fully declarative and with visual editors. But yeah, it was really hard to get anything down there because it was quite different to anything else out there.
Yeah. This Netweaver I evaluated for some companies, and what I also did now, because you're mentioning WebDim Pro, I don't know whether it was WebDim Pro, but I was hired to help them with a Struts-like action-based framework, and I think it was the beginning of WebDim Pro or something before. This was the very first version, and so we had some meetings in. I think St. Leon Roth is the university, and Waldorf exactly is the headquarters where I spent some time. Okay, so I think I have to check whether it was WebDim Pro or was something before WebDim Pro back then, or was the 2003 timeframe, so 2004. Okay, so you enjoyed then the SAP flavor of Java a little bit with code generation.
Yeah.
And
yes. That was the thing, moving everything outside of the generated part, so I can actually code something and then just integrate it together.
Yeah, yeah.
Which wasn't really the advertised way of doing things, but it was the practical way of doing it.
This is my impression is always the case. So what happens is someone there's an ad like you don't have low code or you don't have to know nothing about coding, and then you would like to do something more complex, and then you end up coding in something which was not meant to code, and then it becomes really, really hard. So I had these experiences with workflow engines, with rule engines, with whatever. So instead of coding some Java, we had to code scripting languages which were hard to debug and hard to profile, and no syntax highlighting. And so I'm really curious whether the low code or there will be something like a low code in future which is easy to understand and really working, right?
Yeah, I agree, because it ended up like you need to understand how the internals of the code generation work.
Yeah.
If you really want to do something specific, then it's actually more work than do it yourself fully. Yeah.
So after your experience with Netweaver code generation, what happened then?
And then another project came up at the same company, and it was like create electric vehicle charging station management system.
Wow. And really... this is how you started at Tesla, right?
No, it was still the same German utility company.
Interesting. When was it?
2006. I would say.
Okay.
And and it was really like blank check. Like, okay, you know what you can do, so here, take whatever you want to implement that. So I started looking around. Yes, first thing I knew for sure it's not going to be SAP Netweaver. So I had to look around what is there. And at the time I was reading two books. I was reading OSGi in action, and I was reading ActiveMQ in action.
Oh, this OSGi book is a little bit dangerous, I would say, for such projects. It's not far away from Netweaver, I would say, right?
No. I wouldn't say that's that much dangerous, but I was then looking for a runtime. Okay, what do I run it at? So there are those native OSGi runtimes, or there were already at the time. There was Karaf and so on. But it didn't look like quite a good environment for running a server application.
Yeah. And, Felix, there were Felix as well. Karaf Felix, right?
Yeah. It wasn't something that would give me UI, web services, and all those things that it would need. So at that time, the natural choice was Glassfish 3.
Oh, exactly. Which is runtime, yeah.
It's a runtime. Can do OSGi, can do OSGi hybrid application or Java OSGi hybrid applications. Can also basically host ActiveMQ within it, so I could have everything in a single process.
And has nice admin user interface. This was the selling feature back then, so I really liked Glassfish because of that. So back then, no kidding, so Glassfish was the absolute reasonable choice. And I think at that time, everything was Glassfish. All my projects were Glassfish. But this started in Glassfish v2. Before that, I used a lot of JBoss and Whitefly. The problem was with them, they had a dark period, I think around version 5, which didn't work, and there was no admin user interface. And what I really enjoyed, and Glassfish came with great monitoring, which was a big deal for me because I always wanted to see what's going on there. And interesting that you also started with Glassfish in 2006. So you implemented something with Glassfish, and what was the IDE in NetBeans then?
No, I started with Eclipse back then.
Okay.
And it was really running like the first release of Glassfish 3 that had all of those features combined. And this continued for next 9 years.
9 years?
Yeah.
Until 2015. Okay, and what was the architecture, if you can talk about that? So it was lean, like thin wars, or you build your own Patrick framework?
Combination, and it was evolving. So it started as an OSGi hybrid app.
Okay.
Yeah, and there were some requirements that parts of the system had to be in different networks. So it was always at least two separate JVMs in different networks, bridged by ActiveMQ.
Okay.
So there was message exchange and between the components. At first, it was OSGi hybrid components for few releases, and then I realized it's not bringing any value. The first idea was that we are communicating with the charging stations. We need to be always available also during deployment, so we can basically replace the small parts of the system, which was possible with OSGi, while verifying that everything links together correctly when we upgrade versions, so it will fail early and we can roll back. But there was lots of one had to restart the individual bundles anyway. Yeah, especially when there was the Java EE integration. So we dropped that, and later went for. In the end, we went for EAR files because
you can ship everything at once.
We
Right?
have like pure EJB modules in some parts of applications. So those dedicated only to background processing. There was lots of MDBs and scheduled beans. So that will be one EAR. The front end part will be another one.
So it's interesting because I would say one of the few use cases where I would see HGI being reasonable. So direct use of HGI would be like hardware and charging station is something like this, right? But even in this case, it was over engineered or not over engineered, not needed actually, right?
Yeah, it wasn't needed, and it actually the deployment time was much longer because of the need of the restart of the partial components.
Yeah, and this is what I never got because
I think what happens we got like from 20-minute deployment process, we got back like to 3-minute deployment process. When we went from OSGi to EAR.
Yeah, and of course. And from the architectural point of view, I would say it's even better because either the deployment works or not, there is no partial failure. If you're fiddling with lots of OSGi bundles, if one doesn't start up, then it's the charging station in an inconsistent state. So from my perspective, even worse than fail fast with ears. So I would choose wars back then, but maybe you had I understand why, because probably you had specific class path or class loadings requirements which are achievable with ear and impossible with war, because war is simpler, right?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact reason, but yes, of course, at the time I was following your blog quite intensively.
But back then, since 2006, I'm proposing wars actually.
Yes. I know there was a reason why it didn't fit the model. I don't remember what it was.
Oh, that means this is in my responsibility. The German car charging network is somehow also inspired by my blog.
Yes. In a way, yeah. There are lots of small patterns were adapted. Yeah.
And
again, like that, the communication protocol for the stations, which was a proprietary protocol. This was the only thing that kept using OSGi because it was basically raw threads and raw sockets.
Yeah.
So it took some year for me to take the carriage and rewrite that into JCA inflow adapter.
Okay.
And then it looked nice.
So interesting. And was it for you productive what you did with Glassfish, or was it like?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, we were able to achieve. Anything customer needed. So.
Yeah, this is sometimes you have a feeling, is it the right way to do or not? I mean, this is relevant. So I was in a project, to give you an example, it was an IoT project and they used a custom framework. And this was a funny story actually. And they asked me, and I was in a task force, and we had to fix some problems. And there was the IoT device, and it was the software was written in Java, and the problem we had with was outside of the device and on a server. But they say, okay, this is the device. What we only need is the version number of the device. Can you just extend it with Java? I said, of course, this is easy. And I look at the software, and there was no method like get version. So you had to write commands and send commands, wait for responses. I think I spent 3 days to invoke one simple Java method, and I say, no way this can be ever productive. And I say, and they use SOAP, of course, with XML schemas which were no more up to date. So if you just read that, you get null fields back. So it was incredible. It was really, really bad. So this is why I'm asking. So in your case, whether it was actually you felt productive, or somehow say the entire Java stack is.
No, I did feel productive, and because it was always a kind of same pattern, So you need to do something. Usually it ended up like, okay, you send a JMS message somewhere, somewhere at the other end it got processed, and you got the reply back
Okay.
And yeah, for that there was a bit of custom library, I would say. It was like early implementation of reactive, when you could really have like build your response, have it executed, and you can either listen for the response or just synchronously wait. And was like a huge visitor pattern where that could process all of that.
And is this system is still operational? You know it?
No, the system then started a rewrite because it wasn't, cloud scale.
Okay.
So it went from around about 8 JVMs that it was running, or 4. I'm not sure. I think it was around 8 JVMs in total. So it was fully high available system with active passive failovers and blue-green deployments. And then went on to rewrite it into Spring Boot, running on top of Cloud Foundry. And yeah, I think it's nearly finished, this transition, after 4 years and 20 times the manpower that we had.
Okay, but
you
have now sticker cloud scale.
Yes, I believe they do. Yeah.
This is always interesting story, because in one of my projects it was 2008. 2007, so maybe even 2006, because 2008 I was still in the project and it started earlier. I was asked, to have to help with the architecture, which is web scale and like Google, and this was like online gaming. And we used Glassfish, and the interesting part is it still runs, and there are 4 instances, and there's several thousand transactions per second, and the resulting architecture was much simpler and much easier than anything else. So, and actually back then I fighted with the other people in the team to have wars. So we are running wars, and now I think it's Payara. And they were of course happy, but and if you think about this, now it's almost 13 years. It absolutely pay off. There was no custom patterns, no custom frameworks. They never had to migrate it, and now, if you put it this way, they saved a lot of money, and they could now migrate to whatever they like. So it doesn't matter. But regardless whether something is funky or not, it is very important. And after a few years, it pays off, right? So this is the main idea, not to rewrite the application every other month to follow the current fashion.
Yes, yeah. It was always just okay. If something doesn't work, learning why it doesn't work. Yeah. Because of course there will be problems. Especially we had some points where we had like exclusive processing. This combined with JMS and the things that you might fail over was always tricky. So we ended up building lots of infrastructure code around that to actually agree within that active passive cluster who is going to process what.
Which is almost like how this called the pattern, the leader election pattern,
Yes, yeah, it was something like that. Yeah.
And this is really hard. If you do this is how it's called. There is an algorithm, a very famous algorithm. It's used now in Kafka and everywhere. It's the leader election pattern.
The Raft.
Raft, exactly. And Raft, and the other one is more complex. So Raft is like the easier version, and the other one, exactly. Put it to show notes. So you were somehow, you invented parts of Raft. Actually, we all did this back then, because you always needed something like a master singleton somewhere. And the problem why GMS is really hard in cluster is because actually to make it work, you need one singleton, which is the master queue or whatever, and has to be replicated somewhere. And this is the entire trick, right? So and this is actually also what Kafka and all the others are doing. And
Yeah, but with that I also learned, usually the kind of the set through around horizontal scaling, that you need to have fitting problem that you can just say, I want 7 instances of Hello World, and that scales perfectly. But suddenly, if you want 7 instances of billing processing software, it doesn't work as well. Because you need to guarantee that you really do things.
And I'm still convinced.
And identify the things you didn't process.
And I'm still convinced that putting more hardware on a monolith is cheaper and easier. And I think the challenge is to foresee or to know in advance, will this system take over like Netflix? Or with it rather boring, department application. And if this is, and even my online gaming system was not like Netflix, right? So they're having for Payaras or Glassfishes was more than enough. And so if you can deliver monolith, I mean the productivity and everything, it is very high comparing to a distributed application.
Yeah.
Because there's a single deployment, you can use refactoring, and everything is better and easier. So this is the only thing is it is called monolith, right? So the only problem with that.
Yeah, and you hit those distributed problems only tangentially. Yeah, so I think one of the cases is if you want to do blue-green deployment, and you then need to care about the message compatibility between the versions, or database schema compatibility. And but it's really just the corner cases that you can kind of keep in your head that I need to pay attention to this. Suddenly, if you've got like 30 downstream consumers, it's much harder to communicate such change.
Yeah. Great. So what happened after? So I assume you stopped to work because you were forced to rewrite the software, and so then I quit, or what was the story? 2015.
Well, the story still was keeping on. Probably worse in some different year. On the true timeline, that could be like 2018, 19. Yes, I wasn't really into doing that rewrite because we share the same same ideas about distributed systems and microservices. Yeah, even before I reached out to Payara when they were looking for engineers, because of course, since we were running that in production, it was great on Glassfish 3. Glassfish 4 came out. It wasn't really production capable, without support. And and it had peculiar licensing, which kind of for our 8 VMs would require the company to buy support for 10,000 VMs. So that wasn't really a way. So then we slowly migrated to Payara 4. But it also had its own bugs. So I was basically diagnosing those and submitting patches. So I was already familiar with the server by 2018, 2019.
Okay. And when you started at Payara?
I think it was 2019.
Okay, interesting. Didn't know that. And have we ever met in person somewhere? No.
Yes, we did. I think it was like a few times on demos, but I also took part in one of the Airhex trainings, one of the weekly workshops.
In Munich?
Yes.
This is why I know you, because I think either I know you from, I watched your talks, because I had always I know you from somewhere, so this was, interesting. So you were on the, in Munich at the workshop, so now I'm doing them online. Which is even more interesting. It was last week one, so people from all over the world, actually, from Cleveland and India, and that's crazy. So they were always international, of course, but now it's even people from Australia joined. I don't think they will come, to Munich, but online it works. Okay, so and when was it? When you joined the workshops? 2000?
I'm not sure. 2007 or something like that. No, wait, that's too early. No,
too early. 2015.
Too early.
2013. I started to think them.
Yeah. So 2015. Yeah, a year.
In the early. Okay, so nice.
My strong thing.
Okay, so and you joined then Payara. So what you did at Payara back then? So what was your idea and why you joined, or what was your task, or what was your role at Payara?
Well, first it was like general feature development and bug fixing. So there are always bugs that need to solve. That needs test, that needs fixing, that needs integrating that. Then I was looking a bit into profiling, especially the deployment process. That will need like a bit of work. And then the Jakarta transition finished, and we needed to integrate the TCK build. So that was one of the bigger jobs then to to build against the TCK and to actually pass the TCK, because all of those small features had some corner cases that needed fixing. So yeah, identifying why a test fails and fixing it in a way that the feature remains intact while it's fully compatible yet.
Okay, yeah, this is what I believe. So and then after TCK.
After TCK, then we start being. Then Steve came with the idea of we will building a cloud application server.
And okay, this is what I wanted to ask you. Who came up with the idea actually? Because it happens in 2 years twice. So one genius idea was Quarkus, and the next one was Payara Cloud. This is like two opposite directions, and both are valid and both are extremely interesting, I would say. So this is like, and both are still, following still the Java E idea, but the execution is completely different. So this is why it's so interesting. So this was Steve's idea with the cloud server.
Yes, yeah, Steve. Well, it was his. I want a cloud server in some way. But then came the briefing that how we are going to approach it. Yeah. So in the way that if we look what the domain administration server, or what the admin part of Payara is doing, is actually just assigning resources to applications. Yeah. Whether it is like a specific configuration, a specific node to run on, any other resource limits it should have. So that's basically the same thing. It doesn't need to be a single process.
Yeah.
And so the idea is let's build an administration part of the server in a way that it manages, for example, Kubernetes instances instead.
And this is the genius, because this is what the application server always did, and Kubernetes is a de facto standard for private clouds. And I would say, and now you have the same tooling, which is, works for 20 years. Yeah, 20 years. Glassfish, I think, is more or less 20 years now. And now you can use another great technology called Kubernetes. And for you, it looks more or less the same. And we can actually ship the same applications to the cloud. And how it works is my understanding. So you can put, the WAR to the application server, to the admin server, and it will start and stop Payara micros, right?
Yes. Yes, that's the general idea.
And I was always against Payara Micro, because my problem was the Payara Full is small enough. And for me, it was no reason to use the Payara Micros like a fashion. So I was always against. But now it makes absolute sense, because this is the other thing which I really like, because now it makes absolute sense. You have the Payara Full, which is the admin server, I guess. And the micros, every savings you can get, because you can get lots of them, is really worth, because now you are running a cloud, right? So it fits perfectly, I would say now. Because I always argue to know if I'm running 5 Payaras, whether they will consume, 500 megs of RAM or 700 megs of RAM, who cares about that? So, then before I will create my unique snowflake, I will pick the Payara Full, and I will find even more documentation, because the Payara, I will find, the Glassfish 3 and 4 documentation from Suntimes, and they are very, very compatible. This was my argumentation, but now it's great. But I don't have to know it, because it happens behind the scenes. So for me, it appears as if it would be just one application server there, right?
Yeah, that's the idea, that even the Payara Micro is an implementation detail, or the fact we are running on Kubernetes should remain an implementation detail.
And you're building this right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are multiple people involved, but I do most of that infrastructural part. So the one you interact with during demo is
okay.
architects.
And how you like Kubernetes?
Yeah, so far so good. Like, I like the idea. It has the same idea like my charging station message processing. I somewhere post, this is what I want, and I know there is some process that will pick it up and make it happen.
Yeah,
and it might take a while, or it may fail, but I need to account for that. So,
no, this is what I get.
I like the way that it is built. Yeah, underneath there are lots of details that are sometimes hard to understand, especially if you go down to networking level and so on, and persistent disk allocation. But I'm happy to have a problem which can kind of ignore those problems. Especially the persistent state. I don't need to care, because we only offer like ephemeral storage at this point. If you surely need to store something, you can, but that's not the purpose.
No, why I'm asking is because I get that, but what I never got is the excitement of the Java community around Kubernetes and all the conferences. Because if you look at that from Java developer point of view, not from your point of view, this is exactly like OSGi. OSGi is great if you're building a server. For me, it was always a terrible idea to use OSGi for application development, and I no one could convince me because I couldn't see this. And I got back then also lots of hits on Twitter because there was back then OSGi evangelist, and they really love it, but everything disappeared. It was OSGi related right now, I would say. And Kubernetes is similar, because if you look at the raw tooling, right, it is actually terrible. You have to write lots of YAML. You have to wait a while until something happens, and then at the end of the day, you get something which works like before. So there's actually no added value for business, nothing. If you could of course scale better, but we had already the conversation who really needs the bursting or whatever. But with the Payara Cloud, the cool story is I don't see any YAML, so this is what I like the most. I have my war, and
I get to see all the YAML.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, but this is your problem, right? So you always had to fiddle with OSGi and YAMLs, but I can actually put my thin war on your server, and I'm done. And also this last year, I delivered, and I already mentioned it several times, but still interesting, a talk in 2012, I think, about Java 6. Java 6, like future is now, but is not evenly distributed yet. And how I found that, because I was invited there this was JDD in Krakow in 2012, and they re-invited me back last year online. So I say JDD, I know them. So I searched for JDD, and I found the old examples. And I was just curious, and I just redeployed the old example on current server without any modification. And I say, this is actually genius. So now I would delete even more code, because back then there was no microprofile config. So what I did, I produced the config with Java. I could delete this class, so it would be even leaner, but it still worked. And I said, this is actually a huge story, because what worked, 10 years ago without any modifications, you can not only run it now, you can run it on most modern runtime, like the newest Payara, the newest Whitefly, the newest Open Liberty, without any modifications, which is actually a great business story, right? And now I could even pick this example and run it on Kubernetes from 2012 without any modifications, and this is what I like, right?
Yeah, that's one of the goals.
Yeah.
So basically, to lower the barrier.
Yeah.
For you to be able to be running in the cloud. So if you really cannot afford, or you don't care about managing service.
Yeah. And so you get the access to the Payara Cloud, and so you have a kind of namespace, you call it. I think this is like Kubernetes namespace, and this is like a project, right? So.
Yes, yeah. The idea is to give a little bit more, to give you more of the deployment management side of the things. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So probably the first thing that's a bit strange at the start is this project and stage differentiation. Yeah. But in reality, you will have those. Yeah, you will have your first thing where you deploy stuff to try out, but you won't have your pre-production environment. You want your production environment. So
Payara Cloud supports that from day one, right? So they support from day one from day one. Now, if you just get your environment, so then you already have different staging environments like dev, int, and you can have as many as you like, and exactly. And you have a project and stage, right? So this is the first decision. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the idea is that later you probably will be able to really perform like, okay, I want to. This version I've got deployed in QA, I want to go in production. Yeah, this of course will not be available in a few months, but that's the idea, to provide a little bit more that's really working with a single container. Mm-hmm. Another reason for namespace is that really, since your applications are in the same namespace, they can communicate directly together. So if you are doing microservices, all you need to know is the name of the application, and you fire up HTTP request to it, and you can access it. Yeah. And only parts of that applications are available from the outside world.
This is similar like Docker network or Kubernetes namespace or OpenShift project. So namespace. Yeah. So what it means, you can use the container names as domain names, right?
Exactly.
So what we have is a project which would be an application. an application can consist of multiple WARs microservices which belong to the same application. So this is the idea.
Yeah. And all are hosted on the single domain.
No, you mean now DNS domain or
DNS domain?
DNS domain and Payara domain. There's no such thing like Payara domain anymore, right? Internally, or you have is it namespace domain? No.
Those are really separate Payara micro instances.
Yeah, and you have one Payara server which per Kubernetes, I think, right? Installation.
Yeah. There is one kind of like the Kubernetes operator. So in each cluster, there is this component that will fetch the required changes and apply it to the cluster.
Okay.
So it will create the deployments and all of those Kubernetes resources.
What I also found is that you have monitoring built in, so you see a basic dashboard, so you have a rough idea what's going on there, and you can have. So which metrics do you get out of the box?
So far, we are relying on what the cloud backend will provide us.
Okay.
So since we are now running on AKS, we are collecting the log output of the application.
AKS, so Asia, not EKS, right? Asia.
Yeah, Asia, AKS. And we are collecting all of the microprofile metrics properties. And so far, and the base Kubernetes performance.
Okay.
And the other thing is, and then ingress metrics. So we can, we've got the access log, basically from the Azure Application Gateway, the microprofile metrics from the server itself. That also includes some base JVM metrics. And we've got like raw CPU usage and raw memory usage from Kubernetes performance counters.
And would you also pick my business metrics if I would expose my own metrics?
Yes, we're working on a way to make that available. So,
this would be incredible because
another goal is similar to old Glassfish, to bundle it with very usable user interface, and it takes a little while to make it understandable for all levels of developers.
Yes.
If you want to target also really the entry developers who didn't work with Glassfish before, or didn't work, or with Payara, of course, before, or any large monitoring tool, it needs to make sense for them, because those tools then tend to get quite complicated. But the metrics are captured, so there will at least be exported in some way at the beginning for the advanced users, and then we'll be looking for a way to visualize them.
Okay. What I also noticed that you can register your DNS custom domains, right? Which is also great. I mean, it's a part of a cloud, but to having in place, it's just really convenient.
Yeah, it was. It seemed that this is a basic thing. If you really want to run your application, you probably don't want to run it on Payara.app domain.
What's about certificates?
They will be provided by Let's Encrypt.
Yeah.
So you put in a custom domain. If you direct it to the proper CNAME that we tell you on the screen, we will arrange Let's Encrypt certificates.
Are they going to be renewed automatically as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Very good. So what was lacking, but for me it would be prior one, is to have a command line interface for that. To have a command line deployment. I think this is very important. And not only to having deployment interface, this is less important. What is more important, to have an API, a remote API. And I tell you why. Because there are tools like Pulumi or Terraform where you could write your custom resource and then automate everything. So this is you get a much larger adoption with that than with the user interface is very important for conferences right now. But with the Terraform and or not Terraform, having first an API, then you can create a Terraform resource or even Java like Payara development kit, PDK or whatever. Then you can just automate that. It would be huge.
Yeah. This thing is in the backlog. So also currently, the API is kind of available. We need to iron out things like authentication and so on. And also I decided to go a bit different route with the API. So rather than relying on open API, I rather wanted like explicit linking of resources. So more HOAS approach to
Okay.
linking. So yeah, we'll need to find a way on how to best publish the API.
I mean, the API, how it looks like is important, but what's more important is there, and can be automated. So this is the most important thing.
Yes, but on the other hand, I don't want to commit to specific URL paths for things.
Yeah.
Because it will limit the ways in which we may build cloud features later.
Okay. So what you also have, there are a few APIs which are interesting, is the OData from Microsoft. This is what Asia actually also used, and JSON API also an inspiration, and of course Open API and GraphQL is maybe also interesting for specific metrics or something like this. Could be interesting, but not for everything. Yeah. But and authentication, that was still the ideas from AWS or Azure, what they are doing, with environment entrance, access key and secret key and profile.
Yeah, we'll build something on top of OpenID, of course. Mm-hmm. That was also one of the areas that development of cloud contributed. Payara's OpenID connector got lots of features as we needed to implement specific things for the cloud.
Payara has an OpenID connector, or is it OpenID provider? So connector.
It's an OpenID connector, yeah.
So what it means is that I can use Payara right now for the flows, right? So I can...
No, you can use a security. That's basically identity provider for security. So you put in an annotation, put where your provider is, your client ID, your password, and you basically get back the full JWT token.
Yeah, this is what I meant.
And you can map it. You can map it to roles and so on.
So let's keep the cloud aside. So what you're saying is that not the stock Payara, what I can do with it is I can just go to my REST interface. I get redirected to Keycloak, come back with the JSON Web Token, and proceed with microprofile JSON Web Token. Right? This is what you said right now. This is Vivek's. Okay, this is great actually. Interesting. So
it was there for some time, but now I think we covered more of the use cases. Mm-hmm. So it also now works for when you arrive with explicit token. So if you already got bearer token, it is able to, so we don't need to combine microprofile JWT with our OpenID connector. Our OpenID connector can handle both. Yeah, or it's not compatible with microprofile JWT. But if you need to do both things at once, it's you have this capability.
Very good. So yes, incredible actually what happens. And what I last week I did a workshop on AWS and of course showed the Payara Cloud, and people were actually amazed about the idea, because the idea is simple but it's not obvious, right? That you can actually use a class. You can consider a cluster of application servers as a cluster of microservices running on Kubernetes. So there is actually a one-to-one mapping, direct mapping. This should be obvious, but I didn't. I actually talk about this always. That what I would like to have is like a serverless wars. I never got I always ask myself why Sun never did it, because they had the spec, the wars. My idea would be to push the war to Sun Microsystems Cloud. I would trust Sun because they did, and they never did it. And but now you're doing this, which is incredible, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that used to be one of the targets for Java EE7, right? So they had lots of ideas about APIs to implement to really enable cloud deployment, but they ran out of money before they. Yeah,
but they
realize it.
Spec is one thing, but a product before. Because before Java E7, they already had Sun Grid product, which was a kind of a cloud. And this was terrible because you have to zip, the archive and publish that. So it was not comparable with the wars. So I always ask myself, and back then I asked some people, why not wars? Like, it's different department or whatever. It's a little problematic back then. Mm-hmm. One question is, will the Payara, Payara Cloud be also available as open source on different clouds, or what's the strategy there?
I think that is yet to be decided.
Okay. And is it going also to be available on AWS?
That is one of the things, we are strongly considering, because we know that you want to be close to your data, and we will not be hosting data. So going into AWS is surely the one of the earliest steps we will need to do.
Okay, and another question which interests me is how this works business-wise somehow. So I would just push something to War and pay you, and you will, or is it like I will buy a license from you? I can run this on Azure.
I think this is yet to be decided.
Okay.
So
because what
probably at this time it will be hosted. So for the first thing, it will be hosted. Mm-hmm. I can imagine having deployments where you deploy it into your own cloud resources, mm-hmm. and only have this common management interface over which you access it. We'll need we'll have users to decide. So mm-hmm. if you've got customers that are interested in any way, we will listen and plan appropriately.
And because our customers know, if I show them, they will ask how this works. So they can, of course, if there's interest, I will point to you. But it's just interesting to know what's the idea behind, right? And what can also, you can talk to Amazon, because there's an Amazon managed Prometheus or whatever. You could also have an Amazon managed Payara Cloud or whatever, so this could also work. And do you thought about running this on OpenShift as well? Because it could be also interesting, right? Because the market is actually large. This is what I already know, because some of the AHEX live attendees right now, they're just running OpenShift, and they will never be in the public cloud because of restrictions. And there are huge projects, and this could be really interesting, right? But OpenShift is Kubernetes.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. OpenShift is Kubernetes. So
but for larger companies, for you are a geek, you know Camel book, but so you could. So, but for larger companies, there should be, it's not everyone knows really that OpenShift is Kubernetes. So they would expect at least a statement. It runs also on OpenShift, because larger companies, they not always behave reasonable, right?
Yes. Like running the private clouds, and again, we can decide on what level of privacy, what we want to achieve, whether it is only the operator part, and you keep using the public infrastructure for the rest of it, or some different way, or basically entire thing deployed to your cluster.
Perfect. So I would say, we covered a lot. What I really would like to do is to invite you back winter, or whenever you have the remote API.
Okay.
And or not even remote API, new features, or if something clarified. I would like to have some updates with you. And
it will be my pleasure.
And we can just talk about Payara Cloud if you can. So just brainstorming, and we can publish as a podcast. Win-win situation. So we have some fun, better than a private meeting.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Where people can find you, Twitter, GitHub?
Yeah, everywhere. My handle is pdudits everywhere. So
pdudits.
Mm-hmm. Twitter, GitHub, SoundCloud. You could find SoundCloud actually with that.
With the music?
But there's nothing in. No, I didn't publish any music there. Probably just once or so.
Okay. I know why I know you always, because there's a book from Stephen King, and the name is also Dudits. Do you know this?
Yeah. Yes. Some people mentioned that to me.
Yeah, it is also. I never will forget your name. And actually, you joined the AHEX, and I thought we met at Java 1 somehow, but we met actually in Munich. And which was it? Was the workshop well attended back then? You remember? Was it full or?
Yeah, I think the room was full.
Okay, so probably. And was it a winter, summer? Any ideas? No.
I think it was spring or something like that.
Okay, spring is unfortunate.
Or summer.
Because summer, we had a couple of times in Munich airport, there was an world championships in standing wave. It looks like surfing for me, but it was huge. Yeah. And in winter, we have the winter market, so the Christmas market. So this is why I'm asking you, because it was also some fun with attendees. Uh-huh. And spring was always a little bit boring. So you are in the unfortunate situation joining the AHEX Spring edition. So thank you, and see you next time.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.